She is a singer-songwriter, but she is also an actress. Please welcome to the show, Anastasia.
Thank you.
How are you?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. There is so much to talk about with you. Let's start with the music.
All right.
So you were, and this is a very big deal, but I think a lot of people might not necessarily know what it means, but your song was on the Grammy ballot.
Right.
Explain what that means to people.
Absolutely. So my debut EP was shortlisted for the Grammy ballot, which means that of about 3,000 submissions that the Recording Academy received, I made the first cut. So they received these submissions, they cut 55% of them, and then release a short list. And I actually made it on that list in 4 categories, including Best R&B Album, Best R&B Song, Best R&B Performance, and Record of the Year, which of course is like one of the coveted awards. So I was besides myself.
It's really huge, and I think some people don't know how the process works, and yeah, it's basically people submit, and that's a huge pool, and then it comes down to, so being on the ballot means people were looking to these different albums for who was going to end up being the nominee.
Exactly. It was that last step right before the final nominees are selected and announced.
Fantastic.
And for your debut EP too, like that's monumental.
Definitely. It was a huge pat on the shoulder, just a message that, okay, I'm doing something right, I guess. It was nice to have that acknowledgement.
You also have popped up in every show, like a lot of shows.
A number of them, yes.
How do you balance acting and music? Because they both take up a lot of time. And I think in the beginning, with most people, what you see is they kind of concentrate on one, and then once they get established there, kind of branch out.
Right.
Do you feel like one has more of a focus for you, or are you just working 48 hours a day?
I mean, I've always said that music is my first love. I've been passionate about it, forever, since a very young age. And I've dabbled in acting, starting relatively early on, but it wasn't until I pursued a performing arts program for 2 years that I realized that, I kind of really did have a love for acting too. And so it was about 2 years ago when I started pursuing acting more seriously. And it definitely is a juggling act for sure, you can only focus on any one thing at a time, as much as you wish that you could really, spread yourself around more. But I just, try and take it one day at a time. That's just the best that I can do.
And just so people know what we're dealing with here, it's been 2 years since you've also been, as you said, dabbling in acting. And your credits include Grownish, Blackish, Scandal, Lucifer, NCIS Los Angeles, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, SWAT, Criminal Minds, and Champions. So
I know it feels
pretty
rude to
pretty
say
good dabbler. Pretty good dabbler, I'd say.
My dabbling.
Well, what do you think of this? This is something that I have benefited from. I act as well, and I don't. When I go into a room, there are people with nerves like I've never seen, as though they're going for a final exam they've been preparing with their entire life. And it's like everything rides on this audition. Whereas I have a number of other things that I have. It's not even a fallback. It's just other things I do. So if I don't get a role, I'm literally like, all right, you can't hurt me. I have children who can hurt me. And I make myself vulnerable on stage as a comedian on a regular basis. I don't need this. This is great. And I think sometimes that I don't need this helps you come off as not as desperate as the rest of these poor actors who are sometimes like, I'm an actor. I will act like I'm not desperate, but you can just sense it, I think, as a casting agent.
Absolutely, definitely. I mean, I've always been a firm believer that the best approach to acting is to consider auditioning to be the actual work. It's kind of a different standard from what you would see in some other professions, but I personally have always thought that that's, you know, a really good way of helping to keep the nerves under control and to do your best.
The
when you enter the room.
auditioning is the work. That's
Exactly.
such a great way to
The
look at
auditioning
it.
is the work, and then if you book the role,
It's a bonus, and you know you have like a less than a 1 in 30 chance of booking it most of the time. So that
Right.
that should be the attitude. You know, it's the
Right.
people who are waiting by the phone and like, oh, I was made for this role, and
exactly.
that's where your lows are so low as far as your own
Right.
mood. You know, it's
Mhm.
Yeah,
hard to manage that.
you have to walk out the room and never think about it again, right?
Exactly.
I put it all out
exactly.
there, and that's it.
And then, as you were saying, you know, it really does help to have other things to focus on, whether that be other careers or hobbies or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Keeping up your training is something that is always important, no matter what stage you're at in your career. So, just
And you've
having
been-
things to focus on.
You've been taking acting lessons and coaching as well?
I do,
Yeah?
yes, I do.
Okay,
Absolutely.
alright.
Commercial classes, theatrical classes, all kinds of stuff.
Good stuff. Well,
Never stop learning.
this is somebody who knows a couple of things,
I know.
a couple of 2-3 things, as we used to say in Montreal, for no good reason.
Should
Are you
I
a
train
Montrealer right now as well?
I am, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Actually, I was raised in Montreal.
Yeah. And you still, that's where you live?
I'm based
You're
there
right-
now,
Oh,
yeah.
that's great.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of great, I think we talk a lot in this country about all the stuff that's getting shot in Toronto and Vancouver, but Montreal has a really thriving film scene as well, and
Definitely, definitely. I've actually seen a lot of that recently. You know, I have a great theatrical talent agent based in Montreal, and you know, I'm really surprised sometimes by the auditions that I get over there. There's all kinds of Netflix productions actually going into that area as well. So
That's great.
a lot of opportunities.
I will say it didn't always used to be like that.
Mhm.
And I will say,
because they didn't want you.
well, no, well, there just wasn't a lot of opportunity. I started acting in 2010, 2011.
Okay.
And one of the auditions that I had was for a backup quarterback, already hilarious, named Black Mike, who's black. You know what I mean? Like, I was often going to waste people's time. I've auditioned for Italian roles.
Sure.
Little
Okay.
Nicky is a blonde Italian, but I'm like, what are we doing here? And so there were times where I'd go in and I'd be like, well, I'll give it my best, but we all know that I'm wasting everybody's time, and that's what this is set up for. And I don't know, there weren't that many opportunities at that time.
So I definitely agree with that, but I would argue that it never hurts to be seen by casting
absolutely.
directors and
You know,
anyone behind the
100,
camera.
and I believe that too. I was just jokingly talking about Dr. Len Torres. Like, when I went in for Dr. Len Torres, Filipino man, 8 years older than my actual age, I was like, well, okay, I mean, if not this, then maybe something. Let's just get seen and do that work of
Right.
auditioning.
And
then
who
it turned
plays
into something.
Dr. Len Torres?
Alina Sanders,
Yeah, you
thanks for
do.
asking. Didn't even change the name.
I
I
will-
continue to be Len Torres.
Just not to be left out, I also told this story yesterday to a friend. But when I don't audition anymore. And you guys do it. But
She
when
thinks
I
she's
was
better than us. Do you see that?
That's not. No. That's. Anyway, it's not about me. But real quick, so when I was like 17, I was a regular on a show on TV Ontario, and I got called in for this audition with a casting director that I knew.
Okay.
And when I got there, everyone was like 6 years old. And then, but who knows what's going on? Different castings.
Right.
Walk in the room, and the casting director goes, Allison, we were a little bit confused that you're on the list because we're looking for someone 6 or 7. And I was like, yeah, then why am I here? And they made me do the audition anyway.
Oh, they did. Wow.
And in that case, I would argue, no, we didn't need to do that.
Right.
That benefited no
Right.
one.
No, I think you're onto something there.
We had a great audition, though.
Did you?
Yeah.
Says
but they
who?
went with the 6-year-old,
Oh.
so it was, yeah.
I mean, you never know. So I've been brought in for roles where, I'm supposed to be playing 18, and for roles where I'm supposed to be playing 40 or 45. So
That's
Yeah.
a big.
it's a range.
Quite a range.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that is a big range.
Yeah.
Who are role models for you? And it could be musicians, it could be actors, it could be people that have nothing to do with those, but it kind of just inspire you in life.
So this may be a little bit cliche, but definitely my parents. You know, they just always inspired me as far as the hard work, the level of hard work that they've always put in working towards accomplishing anything. So definitely them. Dr. Oliver Jones is a big role model and inspiration to me. He is actually a mentor of mine. And I actually had a couple of opportunities to perform with him on
For
stage
people
at
who
the
don't
Jazz
know, tell us
Festival.
who Dr. Oliver Jones is on the musical scene.
Yeah, Dr. Oliver Jones is, you know, world-renowned jazz pianist. He was Oscar Peterson's kind of mentee at a point, and he is just unbelievably talented. And so I've been so lucky to be able to benefit from, you know, some of his teachings over the years. So that's a big one for me as well. And then as far as other musical influences, Celine Dion is a really big one for me. Yeah, incredible voice. And Adele, actually. I have a huge respect for her songwriting and, again, her vocal ability.
And you pick people with you pick people with great work ethic as well, right?
Exactly. Well, that's so important in this industry, and I think that there are a lot of people who don't really realize that. A lot of aspiring musicians who don't realize that. You know, the work ethic is like 80%.
Yeah, because it never ends. The hustle never ends. If you want to become the Celine Dions and the Adeles of the world, there's no downtime. You know, there has to be enough where it's like your health isn't compromised, so you take some days for yourself, some maybe weeks for yourself.
Exactly.
But otherwise, like these are the people doing those Las Vegas residencies and every night taking your voice to the brink of its range every single night. It's crazy.
Right.
Well, and with both disciplines that you work in, whether it's acting or music, it is that, as you mentioned earlier, that constant training.
Exactly.
And never feeling like, oh, I'm good enough. Oh,
no.
That's when it stops being that good.
Exactly. That is when you start to fall behind because you find other people surpassing you because they are keeping up with their training. You know? So.
Now, here's a question that we like to ask everybody. Get a little insight into Anastasia.
Okay.
What is your all-time favorite movie?
Oh, all-time favorite movie. So I have a couple. Gone Girl is a big one for me.
Sure.
Just because of that plot twist. You know,
I know.
Yeah, I love suspense films and comedies, which is funny because my mom loves suspense films and my dad loves comedies. So
Ooh.
I'm the perfect mix, I guess. But yeah, Gone Girl, Bridesmaids is among the top comedies. Grease, you know, classic, but definitely a good one. There's so many.
Yeah, it's. I love this question because I feel like it's really interesting just to hear what different people say. Almost no one can say just one movie. They're like, I can't.
Right.
But then it's always fascinating to sort of see how people lean with it and where they go with it, and that's why it's one of my favorite questions to ask because I feel like it gives you, and it gives listeners like another facet of who you are as a person,
right?
And kind of something else to relate to.
You've never asked me, but it's Sound of Music. I have one, just Sound of Music. That's it.
Really?
No.
Okay, I was like, that is so weird on so many levels.
It's a weird one, yeah. It's a great movie for a variety of reasons, but to have that be your one and
your one number
it's
one.
Strange.
So what is it for real?
Oh, it's like 15 of them. I can't choose. It
like
changes every
throw it
month.
too.
I love Out of Sight. I've watched it 10 times.
Yeah,
That J-Lo movie. That's weird that it's there, but I just loved it. I love Steven Soderbergh movies in general.
Yeah, he's very good.
Scarface was a favorite, a longtime favorite, continues to be. What else is out there? I really like The Departed. I like intense. I like intense movies with great acting.
I once watched The Departed twice in one day.
Yeah.
Because I finished watching it and I was like, what am I gonna watch now? And I was kind of doing stuff, and then I was like, I'm gonna watch it all.
Really,
Yeah,
that's like
look
my
for
dad.
different things.
That's like my dad with Kingsman.
Oh,
You've
sure.
seen that movie like
yeah.
8 times.
No, it's that movie. So fun.
Yeah.
Great action scenes.
Mhm.
Sequel not as good. Not as good.
Gladiators. Gladiators. Big.
Do you know, I saw Gladiator in the theater and have not seen it since. I should probably watch that again.
Commodus is not a moral man. Spoiler alert.
Is that Joaquin?
Yeah, Commodus. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Commodus
he is.
awesome.
Oh, is
He's
that
so
that's a
good.
line from
He's
the
so
movie.
good. Yeah, yeah. Oh God, this is the best.
So, what is coming up for you now?
So I am actually in studio working on my next album, my first full-length album. So
Awesome.
I'm really excited about that. I actually do have a performance coming up in Montreal at the Montreal Community Cares Fundraiser Foundation. So putting a show together. Very excited about that.
What's the date of that?
And that is May 11th. Yes. And yeah, working on some music videos too. So
Awesome.
there's a lot to look forward to, a lot going on.
And so people can go to Anastasia Dextrene,
Yes, Anastasia Dextrene.
AnastasiaDextrene.com,
Yes.
and find out more.
All of my socials are linked there.
And yeah, keep up with everything that you're doing because it's such a broad swath of things between acting and music, and I would imagine there's going to be a lot more shows
Yes,
added to your.
definitely. Yeah, and I keep the list very up to date. So all of
Good
that
for
is
you.
Available on the website.
Updating your website is sometimes the hardest part of the entire job.
You just reminded me that I have to do it myself.
Right? I know, it's a nightmare. It's a
Resume,
nightmare.
you know, the administrative stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Anastasia, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And the EP is Best Life. It is available now wherever you get your music. And keep your ears out for the full-length album, hopefully coming soon. We will be right back on The Breakdown, Channel 167, Canada Talks.